Yeah, anyway, well, hello everybody. Welcome to Tom's Guitar Show once again. And I'm Tom. They call me Guitar Tom because I'm often seen with a guitar, and they call me on the phone and they ask me, they say, hey man, what's your show about anyway? So yeah, it's about an hour. It's about guitar players, guitar playing, all things guitaristic. So if you want to call me on the phone, a number will appear on your screen from time to time, and you can dial that and speak to me live. If it's Tuesday, if you're watching this on Friday night, then you're watching a rerun, so it won't help. So anyway, it's my show about guitars, guitar playing, all things guitaristic. And if you want to ask a question, something like, how to play the guitar, the care and feeding of your guitar, what kind of guitar is right for you, some related topic like the sitar, guitarra, guitarrón, lutes, ouds, vihuelas, banjos, balalaikas, bouzouki, bajos, sextos, tiples, cavaquinhos, ukuleles, banjolales, banjolins, mandolins, mandors, mandolas, anything with frets on it. You want to talk about jumbush, or or something else like trombones, trombomarinas, clarinets, clavinets, pianos, harmoniums, harpsichords, harmonicas, sackbuts, crumhorns, quartholts, cornetos. Let's say pipe organs, piccolos. It all runs together one week after another, you know what I'm saying? Anything musical is fine. Politics, world events, your own personality problems, that's okay too. Just keep it clean. This is a family program. Okay. So, this guitar is called a GK Pro, and I've had it here for a while, but I've had it on the show before. I've only had it for months, though, and it's been my main electric nylon string gig guitar. And I was shocked. I heard it was made in Spain, but then when we tried to adjust it and everything, we looked inside, turns out it's made in China. But just like about everything else. But anyway, it's made out of European wood.
If it sounds good.
It is good. Duke Ellington said that. Yeah. So, all right.
Did I hear you say you're taking your talents to the hub of Iowa this weekend?
Oh yeah, the village of Solon, the metropolis.
Yeah.
It's true. Saturday night, I will not be playing in Kelowna because they're having my Kelowna Days.
I take it you will be there Friday night.
I will be there Friday night at the usual time at the Tuscan Moon in beautiful downtown Kelowna. But Saturday night, they're having my Kelowna Days or whatever, and they're going to have bands, live entertainment. They're going to have rock and roll bands and maybe a blues band or so. And I will be unable to perform because you won't be able to hear me over the live bands in the street. So I'm going to secure myself a position at the
Big Grove Brew Pub.
the Big Grove Brew Pub in downtown Solon, Iowa. So it's the other direction. It's
It's 8 miles north of Iowa City on Highway 1.
yeah, it's even closer, isn't it? Yeah, and it's on Highway 1, which Kelowna is also. So I'll be doing my thing there. Looking forward to it. It'll be a change of pace. Get into another city for a change. I suppose I could play in Iowa City against. Well, occasionally I do play in Iowa City, but But yeah, that's where I'll be on Saturday night from 6:30 to 10 or so. Same thing as the Tuscan Moon. And like I was saying, they told give me kind of short notice that I wouldn't have a gig in Kelowna that night, and I thought, what will I do with a Saturday night? And so I got on the horn, and it wasn't hard at all for me to get another gig. So it makes me feel good. Like I'm not totally washed up yet or anything like that. I'm still employable. There's that thing, like I would think I would try to look at it like a regular job, like a day job. It would be really hard for me to get a good job at this point in my life. If I decided to give up this music business and start something else, being a gray-haired old coot that I am, I didn't have any trouble getting a job teaching guitar at Coe College, but that's guitar. I didn't have trouble teaching a class at West Music, and I could teach more there if I wanted to, but But if I wanted to get a real job that wasn't about guitar or something, or mandolin or banjo or something, I think I'd have a really hard time. But it's nice to know I'm not totally washed up yet.
Well, I see so many of those touring bands that are 70s and 80s acts.
Yeah. Well,
You're not as old as they are yet.
that's right. Well, I was of age in the 80s, to have been a rock star, I guess. And even the 70s if I'd been young enough, But
Yeah, I suppose you're about as old as Michael Jackson and Springsteen.
yeah, I think I'm younger than Springsteen, but I'd be about the same age as Michael Jackson and Donny Osmond, for that matter. So I'm of the generation.
And Madonna.
And Madonna, yeah. Get a little long in the tooth, aren't they? But Michael's dead. But anyway, so I could. I would never. It's too late for me to go back and be a youthful rock star. Yeah. But I could probably play in the band. Maybe they want somebody younger in the band. But somebody was describing a Bob Dylan concert. His band was totally excellent and tight. Yeah. I tend to. Well, as you probably know about me, it's personal information. But I don't drink alcohol, or use narcotics and stuff like that. So I'm reasonably. As good a mental health, I suppose, as a guitar player could be, probably. Considering, it's not like. If you drink a lot and use heroin after the show or before the show, by the time you get to my age, you're probably pretty fried, And I'm like, I have some prescription medications, but they're not psychoactive or recreational in any way, And so I just basically do that one good-sized mug of strong coffee in the morning, and that's it. You see. So I would like to think, like Dylan, in his concerts, he's like always kind of out to lunch, but his band is really tight. And if any of them get caught, doing drugs or something, they get fired immediately. And
I saw Chet Atkins on Johnny Carson one time, and he said, "I'm off drugs." And Carson said, "What were you on?" He said, "Oh, nothing but getting off drugs has survived so many people's careers. I thought I'd try it."
Yeah. Well, one guy was telling me, this actor guy I knew, was saying that people would go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings.
Yeah.
In Hollywood, actors, out-of-work actors, and they didn't even have a drinking problem at all.
Just a place to make connections.
Yeah, they meet people, and they come up with they'd make up a story, and stuff like that. And say, well, come and see me, because there are a lot of producers and people there.
A lot of people getting rehabbed all the time.
That's right. Anyway. So anyway, I'll be at the Big Grove Brew Pub Saturday night, 6:30, Solon, Iowa. Should be a great party.
Yeah.
I'll try it. I just love the sound of this nylon string thing, you know. It's not to say I'm not about to change partners, though, because I want to see how this one's doing. It was fine at home, but at home and somewhere else are not the same thing. So hang on a second. I want to turn this down. I have turned it down. Remove this. See, that's Spanish cypress. Huh? Yeah, that's cypress. Alpine spruce. Of course, this one, don't be full now. Steel string. This is made in the USA. So was I, but anyway. Red cedar top and Indian rosewood sides and back. See if it works. Well, it's close to being in tune. Well, I need to do some more tuning. Some more tuning, I'm afraid.
I was just remembering the big hit YouTube video, United Breaks Guitars, was about a Taylor.
That's right. Yeah, that was. Yeah, it was a slightly fancier Taylor than this. These are more, well over $2,000 for one like this. But he had the one with the mother of pearl all over it. I think that's fancy.
So he had some real money in that.
Yeah.
Not that $2,000 isn't real money.
Well, it's like $2,700 actually for this one, but they go like $4,000 for the ones. But the thing is, there's certain guitars that get very ornate, like Taylor and well Martin too, of course, and then Larrivee. Larrivees used to have these like mermaids, coming out of a shell or something, and the headstock is mother pearl inlay. And I remember that there's this big thing, this feminist group was objecting to them. They were writing these letters and stuff like that. And then the guy, Gene Larrivee, the guy when the company said, it was his wife who was doing this, and he didn't ever tell her what to do as far as the artwork and the mother of pearl inlay, and the headstock.
Right.
And he always, just let her do whatever she wanted. And he wasn't about to complain to her about what she did. So anyway, it was really
Objecting to things is what feminists do.
That's right. It's a woman. I think she wasn't exactly a feminist. She might have been a feminist, but she's also race was her big thing. It was about, I forget what her name was, Park, I think was her last name, and she was objecting to a lot of things. And she, but her view was, and she had all these posts about how you should never, don't ever take what a white man says seriously, or never.
Well, I never do.
Yeah, right. But the white man's opinions are worthless. She's being interviewed by this guy, and this guy who's a white guy said, well, she said, you'll never understand the point of view. And I said, well, I may not experience, but I can understand it. And then she was, see, and then she said, I understand your point of view. I just think it's stupid. And she took umbrage. And then he said, but you're a professional umbrage taker, because she was.
Right.
But she was. Korean American, and then so I was reading the comments under this because I look at these. The dialogue I watch is like YouTube and Vimeo and so forth, mostly YouTube. But comments were, one thing is the thing is about the demographics as far as people doing well economically and socially in the United States. That people like East Asians are like on the top of the heap, but actually Indians do better. But economically speaking, they get paid much higher than other people. I mean, as a Korean American, she was not. At least, other people, other demographics don't fare nearly so well.
Right.
I mean, she's like on the top of the heap. So anyway, see, but he said that she was a professional umbrage taker because she was taking umbrage with
Professional victim.
a professional victim. And if you think about it, everything about like, I mean, I'll probably get in trouble someday for all saying these things, but I think about racism and sexism and so forth, and there are notions that certain people are automatically victims, and other people are, and so they're without any. You can't blame them for being racist or sexist or anything like that. They're completely absolved of any sins. But other people are just, however they feel about things and however they behave and so forth, are just automatically, because of how they were born, racist and sexist, like you, or me for that matter. Us older fellas with
Old
white
white
skin.
guys?
Yeah, old white guys, yeah. So basically it's all our fault, and we don't have any right to comment on anything. And if you think about that, just for even a few seconds, that's about the most racist and sexist attitude you could have.
Well,
right?
if people get worked up about what we say, that means we got an audience out there.
I suppose. That's right. Somebody can argue with me. But so I had one guy, and I think he'd stopped taking lessons from me. We were kind of like pals. He was taking lessons from me, but we had this discussion. I mean, after his lesson was over, we were just hanging out, and he was telling me that that black people can't be racist, and women can't be sexist. And I said, my opinion is that's a very racist, sexist attitude to have, because if you look at it, you say, well, so like one group can't be racist because they because they don't qualify.
That's
They're not
Spike
good enough.
Lee
for
did
certain-
an appearance at the university here. Well, it's been
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago now, and that was one of his big points. Is
Yeah. That black
African
people-
Americans can't be racist.
Yeah. And I have had a number of discussions with people whose origins are African who have told me that they were quite racist, or that members of their family were quite racist. And it's an interesting point of view, And other people. I had one guy who was half Pima and half Hopi, Indian.
Yeah.
And I would call him a Native American, but he didn't like the sound of that. He said, just call us Indians. So the guy, he's full-blooded, Indian, American Indian, but Pima and Hopi, so two different tribes. But he told me, quite frankly, that the people he really hated, traditionally, his people were the Navajo. And he said he hated them even more than he'd hate me, you see, because their hatred goes far before they ever saw.
They're right next door.
Yeah. And so they hated them long before they ever saw any kind of German-Irish guy like me, you see. So,
In England, they have a different accent about every 30 miles.
yeah,
And one of the Englishmen was saying, that's so you don't have to go far to hate somebody.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. So, what if we here hated the people up in Seoul? That's Johnson County, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have to wait till we get up to where's Lynn County? Is it Ely, or is that farther up there?
Well, they still sound like us. You get up toward Minnesota, and they start to have a different accent.
Oh, I see. I was just thinking the people in Lynn County might be the ones we could like. Because in some countries it would only be that far. I know that in West Africa, my parents, were French teachers of various kinds. My father's a professor. My mother taught from college down to elementary school level, and they would every year for a number of years they would go to these conferences in French-speaking countries. And of course they go to France, but they'd go to places in Africa.
Yeah.
And like in Senegal, they a lot of people, the educated people, speak French because it was a French colony for a while, and a lot of institutions are French-speaking, and it's also kind of handy, if you have a language that a lot of people around the world speak instead of one particularly local. It's an international language. A lot of people speak French, and a lot of people speak French as a second language. And I've met a number of people.
And the French are really irritated that not everyone speaks French.
That's right, but enough people do. And but one of the things is that languages, there's so many different languages in that area that you can go to 30 miles and you'll find a different language.
Yeah.
So you can't talk to somebody from over there.
Right.
Now back when people were just doing everything on foot, that might have, and you were like living in this area, it might have been more plausible. But for a modern world, it's more handier to have a common language. So there are countries where there are so many like local languages
Yeah,
that some European languages,
While I was still working, for a while we had two Kenyan guys working where I did. And they said in Kenya there are two national languages. Swahili and English are the national languages. Then there are 40 local dialects.
Yeah, and some of them are as different as like German and Italian.
Yeah.
They're like, and yeah, so you can. I don't know, it's a small world after all. The fun thing for guys like us is that English is becoming so ubiquitous that everybody's learning how to. They don't necessarily speak it very well, but I had a Chinese guy come to my door last night, knock on the door, and asking for guitar advice and so forth. And he seemed like he'd probably been speaking in English for a really long time. I mean, he was very used to English, but his accent was very thick. And if I hadn't spent my whole life listening to people trying to speak English with very thick accents, I probably would have had trouble understanding him. But sometimes you try to speak slowly and do like miming to people, but I didn't have to do that with him because he seemed like he was very,
He'd been listening to English for a while.
probably all his life. He's a young guy from China, college age. So
Well, I know we had a lot of Chinese students work with us, and you can really tell the ones that have just recently arrived and the ones that have been here 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Because the ones that have been here a couple of years are a lot more fluent with their English and understand English a lot better.
Yeah. I probably told you my story about I was in the nail boutique having my nails coated. And
By the Vietnamese girls?
Vietnamese women there. There was but then a couple of Chinese girls came in to have their nails done. And they had some specific wants and so forth. But their English was terrible, and the Vietnamese women's English was terrible. And then I was sitting there, waiting for my acrylics to dry, and there was an African-American woman who was speaking in African-American dialect English, she was definitely had the dialect, sitting next to me. And then we found ourselves, another American woman and I, who I had spoke different dialects, translating between these two Asian women because they couldn't understand each other. And we could understand, the Chinese one's broken English, and we'd say it in our English that they were, I guess these Vietnamese women are very used to African-American dialect because it seems like they're, like half the customers every time I go in there are African-American women. And very few men, but a few guitar players. But
Yeah, other than guitar players, how many guys get manicures?
well, some guys do, but But we were translating, which I thought was really funny between these two Asian women.
Yeah.
But I have this sort of, I don't know, I grew up in Iowa City. I have this sort of international feeling, And when I haven't lived in Iowa City, I've lived in San Francisco, pretty international. And then,
You're used to English as a second language, people.
yeah, and I'm used to people from all over the world. And then when I was a kid, I lived in Poitiers in France, and I was foreign. And then, of course, there were other people around who were there, too, to go to university, who were also foreign from different countries. And we used to have English college kids come over for dinner on Sunday nights, a lot of times. So, English people. And then there was an Australian fellow, and there was an Australian fellow who was teaching in the same department as my father, I think. My father's in an exchange thing. A fellow named François Marchesou came to Iowa City. And with his daughter, and basically took over from my dad's classes or whatever, and then we went over to Poitiers, François' town, and anyway.
We had a Malaysian girl worked in our department for a while, and she said when she went home, the girls she'd gone to school with at home laughed at the way she talked because she spoke proper English like an Iowan, and they'd gone to school in England. And learn some English dialect.
Well, when I was a kid in high school in France, I took English because I could get a better grade in it than some of the other classes.
Right.
And among the English teachers, they didn't really speak English very well, and when they did, they attempted to speak British English.
Yeah.
And of course, some of the words were different, but then of course I've been around English people all my life.
Yeah.
There are always a few around,
Right.
They come over here. You spray and spray.
Some of them are awful hard to understand.
Yeah. Some people from Alabama are hard to understand.
That BBC accent you can understand, but
Yeah, I was telling this guy that last night, actually. We were having this discussion about if you put somebody who speaks standard American English, like a broadcaster.
like a proper
should.
Midwesterner.
Yeah, a proper Midwesterner. And you put them next to an English person who speaks basically the BBC English. There's no language barrier whatsoever.
Right.
I mean, you might say some differences, like a semi-truck is an articulated lorry.
Yeah.
But an English person would know what a semi-truck was anyway,
Right.
because they'd heard it enough times watching American TV. But if you put somebody from the Highlands of Scotland next to somebody from Alabama someplace, I think you might have problems.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. I used to watch Monarch of the Glen, and I didn't have any trouble understanding them. But some people said they should have subtitles. But
I remember there was a movie, Babe, about a pig.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I was in a couple of discussion groups on the internet, and somebody said that it had to be retranslated for the English because the babe spoke Australian.
oh, I see. I've never had trouble with Australian English, is understanding it. Right, mate. G'day, love. I had these two Australians used to come to this gig I used to play in Stone City, and they like to hang out there in Stone City. This guy was an engineer in Cedar Rapids, and he and his wife, and they were and they were giving me dating advice because at the time I was quite single, and people are always trying to fix me up, and then that gives me dating advice. I said, just say, "Good eye, love." Good eye, good eye,
Yeah.
good eye, love. And that was supposed to help me, but one woman said I should spill beer on a woman in a bar, and that would get the conversation started. I decided not to, but I played at her wedding, though. I wonder how that worked out.
Well, she must have got over the beer.
Maybe she spilled beer on him. I don't know. I don't know how they turned out, but I played their wedding, and they two things I remember about that wedding was, one is that after their vows, they were both going to mount horses and ride off together. So the brother of the groom loosened the strap, that holds the saddle on, to the point where it would fall off. So he would fall off the horse.
Right.
But the groom was no fool, and he'd been in that family all his life, so he tugged on it, and then he tightened it up, and then he mounted the horse. So only a few seconds were missed. But and the other thing I remember was that they hired a band. I played the wedding ceremony and stuff, and processional, and the meditation, and the recessional, all that stuff, that prelude music on my acoustic guitar. But they had a band hired, and they wanted to do the first dance together. But the band didn't know anything except like up-tempo honky-tonk, like country rock type songs. And they couldn't find anything nice to the couple to dance to, because it's outdoors and everything.
Yeah.
And so I ended up playing that one too, because I don't know anything. We don't know nothing like. I think I did that Bob Dylan song. So, tell me,
I've been to events like that before where somebody hires a band they don't know of 20-year-olds, and all they can play is the stuff they've jammed in the garage.
yeah. Well, these were guys who've been playing honky-tonk type of stuff, you know, in certain
Playing
kinds of bars.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the sort of thing where if you play a slow one that's sentimental, you'll get in trouble because people will stop ordering drinks and stop ordering beer, and then they might leave. You know, you got to keep them pumped
Yeah.
and keep them drinking athletically. I've had a really hard time with those kind of gigs, doing those kind of gigs myself, you know, because I'm not built that way, really. I mean, I can do it, but also there's only one of me, so I did my one-man band thing a long time ago. I did it once. I mean, I set the whole thing up once. I had a bunch of instruments and a drum machine all there, and I would have all these things on stands. I had a bass. It's like a bass guitar, but it's upright. It's a Epiphone EB1. It's basically a copy of a reissue of a Gibson from the early '50s, before the bass guitar was really a thing.
Yeah.
It was their attempt at something, because Fender invented the bass guitar as we know it, and it revolutionized popular music.
Yeah.
And also, it's a heck of a lot easier to
Carry
take with you.
around the
Yeah.
big bass, stand-up bass.
Yeah, I have two stand-up basses, a kid-size one and an adult-size one, a 3/4, which is like the usually pretty much full size. There are not that many full-size basses out there. But anyway, so I had this Epiphone EB1 here, and then I had the acoustic electric guitar on a stand. You can buy a very expensive mic stand, a guitar stand, so you can just walk up to it and it'll be in the right position.
Yeah.
Or you can take a piece of clothesline and put two loops in it, one for here, one for here. Put it on a mic stand, and then you put a sock over it, though, so it doesn't scratch up the back of the guitar. With a sock over
Right.
like a long gym sock or something. And then they don't see that; they just see the guitar. So I had that, an electric guitar, and an electric mandolin. So the bass, two guitars, a mandolin, and a drum machine, all looped together. And then I had a tube amp that was, on a completely different system. It had a wireless system on it, so I did have to plug it in.
Right.
And that was, and so I had that guitar, which is all sparkly and green and kind of obnoxious and kind of a smaller electric guitar. Had that behind my back. So I'd start up a drum loop, and then I'd loop a bass guitar part on top of that, do a bass part, and then I'd let me go up to the acoustic guitar, and then I'd jam on that for a while, and then lay down a rhythm guitar track with acoustic electric, and then I'd do like a mandolin thing and some fills in that, and then I'd do some crunchy electric guitar stuff, or maybe I'd do the electric guitar right after the bass, depending on the song, A lot of, usually funk or blues is what I did, because it was easier to put together. And then when I had that all built up and it was huge, I would pull that electric guitar from behind my back, and with a wireless system, and then I'd play my blazing lead on top of that whole rhythm thing that I had put together. And then I thought one time I did that, and I left the stage, and I walked, because there were these, and it was in this transition of becoming, it used to be the Bohemian Bar, it used to be Bullet Checks. And then it was something like Riverside and Company or something like that, and it was a sports bar, and then it was sort of turning into a gay bar, and then they closed it down. I think they willed it or deeded it to the Slovak Museum or something, because it was the big Bohemian bar, years ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is, I think my son was 4, and he's 19, almost 20. So it was that long, 15 years ago or so, 16 years ago maybe. Anyway, So I went out, and there were all these women with tattoos dancing with each other. I think they were probably lesbians.
Yeah.
I think it was like a group of lesbians were out together, And they were all dancing and stuff to my funk thing, and I kind of wound my way around the dance floor playing my lead, and I sat in a bar stool at the end of the bar, and it was interesting. But then I just didn't. I was thinking I was just going to book this one-man band act.
Surprised you don't have one of those things with a guitar neck and a bass neck.
No, not yet. Or a 6 and 12 string, like what the Jimmy Page did in Led Zeppelin. He had a 6 string and a 12 string. So he used a 12 string to do that, like. Sorry. It's 12 string. Yeah. Then it goes like. He does that on the 6th string, you see, all crunchy and everything. Better him than me. So. This doesn't sound too bad.
Get it under the lights and it still plays.
Yeah, it still works. With this guitar, actually, it's been, I played this quite a bit for a number of years. I've had this one for a while. Probably since about 2000, 2001 maybe. But some years ago, it did this thing where it would make this terrible hum, this really loud.
Yeah.
And all the king's horses and all the king's men, you know, I took it to the different repair people, and then the one guy charged me a bunch of money, claimed to have fixed it, and it was he also insulted me quite a bit the whole time because it was his mistake, but he thought it has a stereo output or a double mono or something. But anyway, so he claimed to have fixed it, and I gave him like a bunch of money for this, and then it started doing it again, so he actually didn't fix it. It was something else.
Yeah.
It's probably some circuit board because there's a bunch of electronics in this thing. 2001 electronics. And then, you know, and then I just don't play it for months or a year, you know.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I plug it in, it's fine. It also doesn't like, there are only certain chords it likes, cables. So I have to be very careful which I use to plug it in with. So so just when I start to really count on it and think, that's fine. You know, I was playing somebody's wedding in Amana, and I guess I forgot that it was particular about what chord it would use, and so I just used whatever chord was already in my equipment bag, and it was really bad, you know. And but I found out that if I sort of like leaned my leg up against it just a certain way while I was playing, it wouldn't be quite so bad. You know, it was just one of those things, you know, and it was. And I remember. Oh yeah, and then I was playing, and there was just some little kid sitting right there, just a few feet away from me, looking kind of woozy, and I think they had a bunch of cheese corn out there in the waiting room, so the kid was violently ill, right on the floor during one of the more sensitive parts of the ceremony, and I was actually invited to the reception, but I thought I'd just go home, you know.
Yeah.
So, anyway, hope they're still married. I don't know. I shouldn't share all my stories of people want to. Must be exciting being a guitar man. Yeah, right.
Kids puke on your shoes.
Yeah, well, I missed my shoes by a little bit, but it was right there on the floor.
Yeah.
It was a wooden floor with grooves in between the boards. You know. Anyway. So who's this dog anyway?
Somebody sent my wife a bunch of pictures of animals crawling into things. And that one is a dog crawling into a guitar case. And I see he slept through the entire show.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, look at that nice dog face. We go this way, we can see it better. Yeah, there you go. I've never had a dog small enough that could fit into a guitar case. But now our cat, Attila, will crawl into anything. And people come over to my house for lessons. You know, they have the guitar in a gig bag, They lift up their empty gig bag, but it's really
Got a
heavy.
cat in it?
Yeah, they lift it up, and then this cat starts
Yeah.
coming out of it. Like kind of pouring out. What? What? You woke me up.
My wife's cats like to climb into things.
Yeah. Not your cats. They're not your cats. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
One of them thinks she owns me, but
Yeah.
they're my wife's cats.
I see. Well, I think our cat owns every of humans, but
The other one's afraid of her shadow.
I wanted a cat like that. This is the point in the show when I got to decide whether I want to switch back to the original guitar.
You got about 3 minutes.
Yeah. I better think fast. Huh? I think I will, though. I think I will. I'm just going to turn this off for now. And take this off here and unplug this. Unplug the Taylor and strap myself from it, and then I'll get the cord out. So this company, Cordoba, I thought they were a Spanish company, and I actually talked to a
They
guy.
might have been once upon a time.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't think it ever was actually, but Cordoba. Anyway, used to be a Chrysler product.
Yeah.
Cordoba, but it's Cordoba. But anyway, I found out they're actually a California company, and they have guitars built all around the world. And so I actually talked to a guy at a trade show, like it was years ago now. A Spanish guy from the Alhambra guitar company. They had these Gypsy Kings guitars, looked just like mine, except they had the Alhambra thing on the top. And I said, wow. He said, we built it for them. I said, I thought they were their own company. So anyways, this is a Cordoba. But what I discovered is Cordoba bought Guild guitars. And they make steel string and hollow body jazz guitars and things. One of my favorites is Guilds. And I thought, so now there's this Guild I want. There's two Guilds I want. One's a little, 6 string and 12 string. One's a little bit more than 3,000 and one's a little bit less. I mean, as far as the street price, I mean, they're both over $4,000 suggested retail, but nobody ever pays that, so. That's too much even for me. Anyway. I'll be back next week. I always come back. Next week's
Next week,
upstairs.
we're upstairs.
Upstairs, classical guitars extravaganza. Don't
Come
miss
see
it.
the show made.
What?
Come see the show made. Uptown Bill's Coffee House.
Yeah, next week. Upstairs. Uptown Bill's Coffee House.
Corner of South Dubuque and Lafayette.
That's right. It's all going to be classical guitarists.
Plenty of parking across the street in the university lot.
That's right. And you can have a cup of coffee. Don't order a milkshake while we're playing.